Good morning. Welcome to my thought for the day. Today I'm looking at John chapter 11. If you get the chance to read the whole chapter today, do read it. I can't read it in this thought for the day time. But it's the story of Lazarus, who was a very good friend of Jesus. In chapter 11, verse 1, it says, "Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, 'Lord, he whom you love is ill.' But when Jesus heard it, he said, 'This illness is not unto death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of Man may be glorified by means of it.' Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was." Now, when you read it just like that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, really. Here was Jesus. He'd had a message from the two people he knew and loved very well. There's a story in I think it's in Luke's Gospel, of Jesus visiting the home of Mary and Martha. And we know the story of Mary and Martha, how Mary was at Jesus's feet and Martha was doing a lot of housework, getting everything ready for Jesus and his disciples. And there was so much to do, and she was so full of doing what she was doing, she got all flustered. We know the story of Mary and Martha. And Jesus loved them. Jesus, it seems, often ate with them, and he knew them very well. And they lived in Bethany, which wasn't far from Jerusalem. And Jerusalem was by that point quite a dangerous place for Jesus to go to. The people who hated him were centered in Jerusalem, and it wasn't a safe place for him to go to. And it wasn't time for him to go to Jerusalem for those last days that we'll be celebrating shortly. And so he has this message from these two dear friends that their brother is ill, whom he loved. That was the message of the Lord. He whom you love is ill. He was very close to these three. So what does he do? When he heard that he was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Now that doesn't make sense. If you and I have a message that someone we love very dearly is ill, very ill, we go, we make contact, we immediately respond. But Jesus, it says, so when he heard he was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. He didn't come running. Why? He says in another place that he only did what the Father told him to do. And he knew he wasn't to go until after Lazarus had died and been put in the tomb. He knew he was going to raise him from the dead. He knew he wasn't to go. And that's an amazing thing. And that's the thing I was going to talk about, really. And that is, there are times when we ask the Lord for help. We feel we are in a dire situation. Things are really bad, really serious. And we cry out to the Lord for help. And many times, when we do that, there's an instant answer. And we praise the Lord, and it's wonderful. But sometimes there's a delay. And then the answer doesn't come. And instead of getting better, the situation gets worse, as it did for these two sisters. Their brother was ill. Jesus didn't come. Jesus, the great healer, he'd healed so many people. He didn't come and heal their brother. Things got worse. And their brother died and was laid in the tomb before Jesus ever came. He'd been 4 days in the tomb by the time Jesus arrived. Things got worse, much, much worse. Now, what I want to say to you is, God is never late. He's never late. It looks in this story as if Jesus was late, but he wasn't. His timing was perfect. He knew what he was going to do. And he didn't let the emotional need override what he knew was the right thing to do. Now, The sisters didn't understand why he delayed. Martha comes out to meet him and says to him, what, it's in verse 21, Martha said to him, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. First, immediately. And that's how we feel to God. We say, Lord, if you'd answered my prayer when I first prayed it, all of this wouldn't have happened. If you'd only responded. In other words, it's your fault it's got as bad as it is. We need to be careful what we say to God. Because God is never late. His timing is perfect. He has a reason. He has a purpose. And sometimes we will not know the purpose and the reason until we see him in glory. We won't know. But if he hadn't delayed, we wouldn't have these wonderful words that he spoke to Martha. Because Martha said to him, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. And then she says, and even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, he will give you. Inside her, she had that trust in Jesus, that he was able to do anything, that nothing was impossible for him. He had come, but he was late. But he wasn't late. God is never late. Get that into your head. God is never late. At the right time, he sent Jesus to the world. At the right time, he intervened in people's lives. At the right time, he will intervene in yours. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And she said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. She knew that. She knew that resurrection was possible and was going to happen on the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And she said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, he who is coming into the world. She had great faith, Martha did. It was Martha that went to meet Jesus as he came, not Mary. Mary had sat at Jesus' feet. Martha had been the busy one. But Martha had a depth of faith. She knew that what Jesus said was true. She knew who Jesus was. She knew he was the promised one, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. And Jesus spoke these words, which seem not to make any sense as well. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in him, in me, though he die, yet shall he live, and whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Now he's talking about eternity. When we come to faith in Jesus, we are born of the Spirit of God. And although our physical body dies, our essential person, our spiritual person, lives forever. And at the resurrection, we will receive an incorruptible body that will be like the body that Jesus received when he rose from the dead, because he didn't die again. He had to ascend into heaven and take the body with him. He couldn't die again. He died and been buried. And he was the first to receive the eternal resurrection body, the firstborn from the dead. And just like he received an eternal body, incorruptible, imperishable, that lives forever, and re-inhabited a body, so will we. So even though we die, we will rise again, never to die again. These are wonderful words. These amazing words that Jesus spoke, he spoke to a woman. Jesus did amazing things to raise the profile of women. Women were always at the bottom of the pile in the society in which Jesus lived. Well, not always. There were a few well-to-do women who were treated quite differently, but in the main, women were thought of as much less than men. And Jesus raised the profile of women. He spoke these fantastic words to a woman. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. What an amazing thing to say. This is the Jesus we worship, the God who is never late. Even though he's delayed, if he's delayed, it'll be for a reason. God bless you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.